Hey, Dwight.
Hey folks, we're just getting ready to start
Can you hear me?
the community meeting here
Okay,
in
thanks.
Fairbanks, Alaska at the Kunkel. I'm going to turn it around. You're going to see Kate, the emergency operations. That's the other live feed here. So if you're following Fairbanks North Star Borough emergency operations, here we are.
We've got about a minute.
One more minute. You can see everybody filling in here. Got our audience of locals. It's our third community meeting here since I've been around. I started with the Alaska team and carried on with the Pacific Northwest team too. So 3 great community meetings here. Again, if for some reason something happens to our feed, got Kate from the Fairbanks North Star Borough emergency operations page. That has a very great amount of information about evacuation levels and everything else. Thanks for all the support there, Emery. And everybody, if you're joining us now on the live rebroadcast, go ahead and ask your questions. Our goal is 100% transparency, that you have every question answered. Please also remember to watch our Facebook feed and on the DNR Division of Forestry page, on the Fairbanks North Star Borough Emergency Operations page, and also on the BLM page. We have 3 different Facebook pages, and then we have our YouTube channel. We put the link in there. There's a lot of great information on that link. We're just a couple minutes away. Again, crowd all coming together. You're going to hear from the incident commander, Rob Allen, and members of the local fire departments are here. Members of this great community, the Goldstream. It's really good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Share this so your friends can see it. We'll post this also live on YouTube afterwards. We'll upload it there. Everything that we produce in our shop for the Shovel Creek fire goes on YouTube. So for those of you who prefer YouTube, then we'll go ahead and do it there. So there's Sarah Sarlos, our host tonight. Sebastian Sarlos joining us online. Thanks for that. Make sure you ask your questions. We do have Emery, one of our excellent public information officers locally here from Esther, working in the shop right now at the Pearl Creek Elementary School, and she's getting ready to answer your questions online. Sarah's just doing some we're still in the pre-form here. You're not missing anything. We're just giving you a little bit of transparency behind the scenes so you can see. Hey Sebastian, thanks for that. We love having an interactive audience. Again, there's 2 live streams here, Kate's and ours. We're going to go ahead and turn it around, and here we go.
Good evening. We're going to get started here. My name's Sarah Sarlos. I'm a public information officer for the Pacific Northwest team, Team 2. I also was here a couple weeks ago with the Alaska team, so I'm recognizing some familiar faces. Thanks for coming tonight and taking time out of your evening to get the newest information about the Shovel Creek fire. This is our 4th meeting that we've had talking about this fire. The fire started solstice June 21st, and so now we're into the 2nd week of July, so it's definitely been a long duration fire. A lot of you have the agenda in your hand, so let's just go over that real quick. So after I get done with just giving a general review of how this is going to go down, Rob Allen, the incident commander, will speak, and then we'll have an operational update from Chris Hetzel. And then our team incident safety officer, Ken Greger, is going to speak about some of the safety issues that are out there right now. And then David Gibbs, the director of emergency operations for the Fairbanks North Star Borough, will speak about the evacuation process and some more information regarding that. And then we're going to have Nick Cronquist, who's from our team. Where's Nick? Nick is over here. He's going to speak about what he's going to be able to do to help with the liaison process with the community that has been in EVAC 3. And then we're going to have Chief Berrien, and he's going to just speak to you all just a little bit about the Goldstream Fire Department and what they have up there with fire and rescue. And then when we go into closeout, we'll be doing some questions. We do have a live audience here on 2 different Facebook pages, so we want to thank you for joining. When we go into Q&A, let's try to focus the questions on kind of the good for the community, and then we're going to stay until the last question is answered for any of those one-on-one, I want to talk about my community, talk about my property or a certain road, things like that. And I feel like that has worked out. We'll be using 2 mics, so everyone will be able to hear your question, and then also the folks online will be able to hear your question as well. So to get us started, Rob Allen, the Incident Commander.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. We'll get straight to what I know you've all come here to hear for sure. With all the great work that we've done, the burning operation moving forward, in conjunction with the North Star Borough, we recommended today that we change the evacuation level for Martin and Perfect Perch tomorrow at noon to a level 2. They'll be in set. McLeod will stay in a level 2, and everything else will go to a level 1. Mic drop. Yeah. And we'll just move on from there. Anyway, we looked at a lot of what's been going on. We, as we talked about a week ago, or when we had this last meeting, we had some pretty adverse conditions. We had to take it slow. We had to take our time. But the folks up on the hill have done an amazing job of getting this done. A lot of them, of our overhead that are up there, live in that neighborhood. They knew what the issues were. We've worked with them to get the firing down and around, and I'll let our operations guys talk about how far we've made it, but we're far enough off the road now that most of the stuff to the southwest we're feeling pretty good about. One of the issues that we know will be coming up in the next couple of days, we're not out of the woods yet, literally. There's a lot of fire out there now. There's still a lot of fuel that can burn, and we're not sure which direction the weather's coming. Predicted dry lightning storms coming in here later on this week could cause some issues with what we have on the ground right now. But we're feeling pretty good with the buffers that we have around, especially the Murphy Dome Road area, and heading down the other end. That we're in a pretty good shot up here. We'll be watching stuff coming around and coming at us from the east possibly, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. I'll get it to Chris so he can tell you what we've been doing out there and what it looks like right now, and then we'll ask some questions later. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Etzel. I'm one of the operations chiefs with PNW2. And Rob, he's got the good information, stole my thunder about the evac levels, but I'll talk to you about what the folks have been out there doing on the ground. Like we talked last week, or last time I was here, we've got this fire broken up into 3 branches. Branch 1, which is in the north here, Branch 2 off to the east, and then Branch 3 across the south and west. So we'll start here in this Branch 1, what we're calling this north side. This Chattanooga along the river. We've got structure protection groups that are in there doing point protection. What that means is they're in there setting up those sprinkler systems and doing fuels mitigations in and around those houses to help protect them from when the fire comes. Same is going on in the Chattanooga East. So those folks, like I said, have worked really hard to put those protections in place, and they're working in coordination of grabbing the edge of this fire and how we're going to bring it into the old barn. That's the control operation there. Obviously, the priority is the homes. So that's what they've done, and that's what they've completed. Now we'll work to the line portion. As we come around here in the counterclockwise, in what we're calling Branch 3, crews have continued to work along this western perimeter, tying in this line, cold trailing, mopping up where they can to ensure that this line doesn't move. If the fire's not going to move out of there, then we can continue moving. As we move out, little piece here that found some fuel that it liked from the old burn. So it got up in here, made some short runs, and crews just went out there and they're working to put line on that over the last 2 days. We expect to see this fire in containment in the next 3 days. Obviously, it's not going to grow. It's just how we determine containment and confinement. Kind of some terminology, but those are lines in, crews are in there working now. Like Rob said, we'd use this Murphy Dome Road for a control option in and along through the houses. So what we'd done is we'd gone in here, combination of dozer line, that shear blade line that was installed, and some dozers lines, and worked this across. We put hose lay all the way across this, hose lays and sprinkler systems in and around the houses, and we did a controlled burn along that edge. brought the fire down along, burned it all the way across, and then we bring it out, so we add that depth. The depth is what allows this fire, if the wind switches, if the wind switches and it tries to push the fire towards the line, if there's no fuels there, there's nothing to burn, so that's what holds it. You know, at the same time, a lot of you folks that have been out of the Martin, all the hose and pumps and sprinklers, that stuff's been in there. So the big news, for the last 2 days, so this is, we finished this little portion yesterday afternoon about this time. So last night, crews turned the corner here off of Old Murphy Dome, and that's the dozer line that we constructed down to the Chattanooga. They started burning through here until about 1 o'clock this morning. They stopped roughly right about here to wait so we get our crews off the line, get them some rest, and then wait for the next day, do it again, groundhog. They picked it up this morning, fired using hand ignition, aerial ignition, 7 miles of line completed down to the river since yesterday afternoon. So, and they're still out there right now. They're still out there burning, putting in that depth. Currently, we have east winds, which is helping us pull the fire off the line and creating that depth that we're needing. Obviously, we can't show it yet because the fire hasn't flown it yet. So that's where we're at. Once again, we still have the McLeod structure group that has the hose and the pumpkins in there. And this is all in anticipation if we have problems along our control line. We're not anticipating any problems. But that doesn't mean that something couldn't happen over the next day or two. So we're still going to be in these areas. We've got, I'm going to say, if not 3, if not 4 days of what we call mop-up along that edge to secure that edge. So we're still going to be in here. We're still going to be working. And we're going to ensure that you folks, we can let you folks, you know, get back in your homes and get on with your lives. And you know that, I that's the gist of it. I do want to thank our cooperators, and I want to State of Alaska, Fairbanks Area Forestry, our cooperators, Chena Goldstream. All these folks played an important part of helping us with supplying resources. They're in your community. Everybody wants to help, and it takes everybody to do this. We couldn't do it alone, and it takes a relationship with the community and all our partners to make this happen. Thank you. Have a good evening.
And good evening. I'm Ken Greger. I'm the team safety, and I'm here this evening to talk to you folks about a couple things. And the primary is what the fire in the fire area, when you folks go back into your homes, what to expect, what you're going to be looking at as far as some operations that's still going on out there, and most importantly, what we're going to need you folks. Up to this point, we've been out there, the team and all the resources fighting fire and doing a really good job. I will say a great safety record. I hate saying that, knock on wood. Just a couple minor things. And after tomorrow, when you folks start repopulating your homes, one thing that's going to change is we're all going to be together out there and responsible and assuming different levels of risk with everything going on out there. So I just want to walk you through really quick what it might look out there for some of you folks, and then some of the things that what we need you to do to help us as a community and as a team be successful in that a safety mission out there. So as you go back into your home areas, there's still full-blown operation going out there to certain extents. There's going to be hose lays. There's going to be pumps. There's going to be folks out there working to continue to secure. As you folks come in, it's just it's human nature to want to look. You're going to want to check all your stuff out and everything. But the most dangerous thing we do as an agency is driving. So we have a combination out there of all the resources driving their vehicles, tenders, big rigs and everything, combined with you folks coming back in to your residence. So the biggest thing we need to collectively do is commit that we're going to take the proper precautionaries to be successful with this. And it's the basics. It's driving slow, paying attention, have your lights on, be aware of your surroundings. I guarantee you tomorrow morning when we address the resources out there working, this is going to be the primary thing in our emphasis for all the folks out there working. So collectively, we can walk through the final phases of this with you folks going back in and hopefully not have any incidents. So on top of just your normal firefighting apparatus and the folks still out there working and the driving, one other thing on the safety realm is some of your residents where the firing operation was, they burn around the homes. So you have a burnt landscape out there. The resources have done a very good job mitigating hazards in that area, which would be trees and such. But one thing that I would ask for you folks collectively, please, don't wander off into the black, into the burn. The further you get away from those secured areas, there's other hazards, and the one being snags. So just keep that in mind. You guys are, going home, but you're in the middle of the fire environment. So there's all kinds of hazards associated still with the fire, the further you move away from it. So we've had a very successful safety record up to now. Our goal is to have a collective good safety record with everyone going back into the fire area. I can't emphasize that enough. And the environment's not going to be the same in terms of there's also going to be the ground activity, but you're going to still hear helicopters and planes and everything flying over, and it's just that awareness that you're back in that environment. So please just use caution. That's what's going to pay the biggest dividends down the road, and hopefully you folks will get in there tomorrow, get back home, try and get back to some sort of normalcy, and with that, you guys have a great evening.
Hi, I'm David Gibbs, the Fairbanks Short Borough Emergency Services Director. I've spoken to you the previous 3 meetings, so I want to begin by just thanking the team. I know I'm a bit of an irritant when I go to the meetings as the agency representative to keep reminding them of the fact that we have people that have been displaced, and they've been extremely gracious with the things that we've asked of them. So I do want to recognize them and thank them very much. Second thing, I really want to recognize our volunteers. We've had, literally volunteers have been working every day since this fire began. You don't see the volunteers that are currently staffing the emergency pet shelter that we've set up, that are at the emergency shelter that we've set up, that have been out updating the signs, contacting you as we have time to do so. So again, I want to recognize the CERTs and the American Red Cross as being some just tremendous support to us and supplementing our paid staff in this effort. So thanks to them. I think there's some certs here on our side. I haven't seen the Red Cross certs, so thank you. So with the changes in evacuation levels, we've been pushing out those notifications via the text messaging system that we've been using when those changes actually take effect. So tomorrow at noon, we'll be pushing out those changes, but it will be what Rob has already announced to you. We will also be kind of standing down our emergency shelters to give the volunteers and our staff a bit of a break. So we'll be standing them, but we'll leave them available so that we can quickly ramp up if the situation changes. I want to remind you that just because we're changing evacuation levels, the definition of the set level, the level 2, is that you be prepared to evacuate at a moment's notice. So please, 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 until we get a season-ending precipitation event, maintain that posture. I'm comfortable with the team, but things could change. I also want to say for those in McLeod, I did drive the old Murphy Dome Road because I couldn't send you that way all the way out to the Elliott. It was rough. I was in a 2-wheel drive vehicle, but that was before they've done 3 or 4 days worth of blading and improvements. But it was passable. It was slow and it was 1 lane. So, but that is a viable way out for those in McLeod all the way to Hattie Creek. And kind of the last thing, I did want to talk a little bit about tomorrow with the road openings. I think the team has has expressed a preference to, at 12 noon, when the evacuation levels change, initial access will be via the Murphy Dome, Old Murphy Dome intersection to those subdivisions that have been evacuated. At 6 p.m., a secondary access will be opened up via Spinach Creek and to Old Murphy Dome that way. So those are two changes. So just want to conclude my comments by saying, we're not, as Rob said, not out of the woods yet. So please, please, please be ready, but it's really encouraging news for us. So thank you very much, and thank you for your understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Nick Cronquist. I'm with the team, and actually I'm going to be the community liaison for the reentry process. And so David touched on a few things. That is, tomorrow at 12, we're going to have entrance off the Old Murphy Dome Road. And so we're gonna open that up. And so the reason we're doing a staggered process, we're doing a 12 o'clock and a 6 o'clock, is because we have that apparatus out there. We have the firefighters out there. And so we want to get them back up to the fire line, able to do that process and get in the middle of what their daily job is going to be and maintain to be for the next few days. And then also we have, we're going to open up to 6 o'clock because that allows you guys opportunities. You have a 12 o'clock for early entry and then 6 o'clock maybe coming off work. And so my job is to help facilitate any needs as you guys, as they arise out in the community. My job is to help facilitate any questions that you have. And so we originally had an evacuation hotline, and that number is going to be maintained, and that's going to be a reentry hotline. And so it's actually this little phone, and you guys can, I will be answering it. It will be me on the other end. So if you have questions, I'm going to give you the phone number real quick, 907-371-4608, and that is on some of our updates, and it's also on our NCWeb as well. And so we'll make sure we double that up, and I'll give it one more time, 907-371-4608. And again, I'm just here to assist you guys with this process. And we want to, you heard our safety come up. Our concerns are your safety, but also our firefighter safety. And so we want to make sure that process is really smooth with getting you back and getting your lives back started. But also, we want to make sure that you're aware that there's apparatus and fire going. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. My name is Keith Berry, and I'm the Deputy Chief with Goldstream Fire and Rescue, and I'm a fireman. I'm not a public speaker, but I'm going to talk to you for a minute or two. One of the questions that's come up the last couple of meetings is, what can you do to help the firefighters? Well, as some of you might or might not be aware, this fire has burned right up to the edge of the Goldstream Fire Service area, and in addition, we also have EMS responsibility for everything within the borough on this end of town. We don't need material, but one of the things we could use from you is we need more volunteers. Right now our organization has about 30 people total, and we would sure love to have that number be double or triple that to help us staff our stations. We cover an area that covers all of Chena Ridge, Rosie Creek. We provide ambulance for the Esther area, and we provide fire and EMS for all the Goldstream Valley, all the way around to almost Fox. So we've got a big area, and we've got very few people. We would sure like to have more volunteers. If you're interested at all, when I'm done, and the folks here are done, if you raise your hand, I've got various volunteers here who'll come by and drop some paperwork off with you and let you know how to come get involved. We're looking for a little bit of your time. We'll train you, we'll equip you. The requirements we ask of you are not very much. We ask that volunteers pull about 2 12-hour shifts a month, so a couple of evenings or daytimes a month. And in exchange for that, we'll give you lots of training experience and hopefully a chance to help your neighbors. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic on. Oh, yep, there you go. One more. That's my boss. That's Fire Chief Frank Bracken. One of the things, if you're not interested in being an active responder, right now our board of directors, who is the organization that controls our fire department, has some open slots on the board of directors. And so if you are not in a position in your life where you're interested in being a firefighter or an EMT, we could also use some administrative help on our board. So with that, I'll pass the mic on, and if you want any information, check with one of our people and they'll come bring it to you.
Thanks, Chief. Sounds like a pretty good deal. Okay, so just for some housekeeping items here that I missed when I was going through the agenda, we do have the National Prevention Team here, over here to the back at a table. There's some Firewise information, there's some Smoky Bear stuff, so feel free to, when we end the meeting here, to stop by there. And then also the Air Resource Advisor that has been putting out the smoke reports. They are here too, so if you want to have more information about the smoke and kind of where we're going to go from here with the smoke, there are a lot of fires in the state of Alaska that are burning right now, just not the Shovel Creek fire, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Okay, so with that, I think it's time to start with our question and answers. And remember, we're going to pass around the mic, and let's do some questions that are going to be good for the community and for also the folks online. I believe we might be taking questions online as well. Gail and Kat? Yep. Okay. So I see one back here, Carly, at the very back.
Okay, folks, if you have any questions, write them here. We'll read them out.
Okay, Jen Reed, Vancouver Subdivision. Two comments and a question. The air advisor, it would be great if the air advisor could just speak generally about a few main points, because I know that at least in my workplace and among friends, a lot of people are asking questions about general health and well-being with the long-term effects of the air quality. So rather than just telling a few people one-on-one, maybe they could actually speak to the group.
Okay.
So that's one comment. Another question I have is, will there be some type of limited entry for people? I'm not in a level 3 subdivision, but I just know human nature, and there's probably going to be a lot of gawking and curiosity. And just in order to help the firefighters with the continuing operation, it might be a good idea to, just allow residents in that area for a while.
That is a good point, and that is actually what is going to be happening. So for the areas that were level 3 that are moving into level 2, there will still be a guarded area, if you will, for residents, but it won't be restricted like it was before. So that's a really good point, and that's something that, especially up on top of Murphy Dome right now, where we have all that helicopter traffic happening and a lot of firefighters coming and going, that's another area that we know would be a great place to get maybe a couple photos or just to check it out. But for public safety and for our firefighter safety, we will keep certain areas with our National Guard there. So thank you for those comments, and we'll try to find the air resource.
Right here.
Just one more.
Okay.
David Gibbs's point that it's a good idea for us to, if we've already moved to level 2, keep our stuff somewhat agile is really good, because we're still in the middle of fire season and there could be fire strikes nearby or anywhere else. So no reason to undo all that work.
That's right. Thanks for that. Yep. Being set is, there was a lot of conversation about it going from a 3 to a 2. And this people being in set is, we've been doing a lot of education about what ready, set, go means, and set is where we're moving people to. It's not 3 to 0. So that's a really good point, and thanks for bringing that up. Do we have so we're going to bring up the Air Resource Advisor, and then we'll go into more questions.
Hi, my name is Trent Wickman. I'm the one that name is on this sheet. So I could stand up here and talk a long time about air quality, because I think it's super cool. It's the job I do back home. I've been here now for about a week and a half, and I time out on Thursday, and my replacement is actually I know it's a real technical term, but it's just smudging all over. And even with, the day when this gets wrapped up, there's a lot of other fires that are still going to be burning and new starts will start. And so, this is going to be something you're going to need to think about for the summer, the smoke. And so the big thing is just to remember who's sensitive. So the sensitive people are the senior citizens, the young folks, folks with cardiovascular respiratory problems. If you're in that category, you know somebody in that category, you should particularly pay attention to this kind of stuff. I saw that there's a clean air building now in Fairbanks, so that's a good thing, a place where you can go if it gets really bad. And you want to try to limit your exposure, you want to try to limit your exertion during times when it's really thick. And so, there may be times where we set into patterns where maybe certain parts of the day are cleaner than others. So maybe if you're one of those sensitive people, you can kind of target those clean periods for trying to get outside and doing things that you need to do outside. I look around the crowd, and this is the first meeting I was at the last two where I see people with masks. And a mask discussion is an interesting discussion. I got a real strong personal opinion on masks. As I look around, it's kind of instructive because we have all types of masks here, so we could make comments on the different types of masks. But basically, the mask over here, if you wouldn't mind standing up, is the best quality mask right there. That's called a respirator, actually. And the reason why that's so good is because the fit. Some of us grow beards by 4 o'clock. So think about that. That's kind of like the best material. There's N95 masks that I think you have right there. So that would be a better one to have than something that's more like a paper mask or something you just find at the hardware store. But all of it has to have good fit. If you don't have good fit, it doesn't matter. So let's see, masks. What's an N95? So that if you wouldn't mind standing up, this is great. We got some of everybody here. The N95 means it filters 95% of the particles out. And so it has a designation on it of N95, whereas, the typical dust mask you get at the store isn't going to be that good. So it just means the material is that good at pulling out the particles. But again, you have to have a good fit. So, that would be preferable. That or that would be preferable. I haven't seen that kind of a mask. I'm not sure what that one is, but
this is a boss mask.
Okay.
And it's got the charcoal filter and everything inside, and this is the best for
So again,
company in California.
all right, so there's a different one there. So, but again, talk to your doctor if you're in that sensitive category. The Department of Health has been part of our daily smoke calls. We have daily state smoke coordination calls between the DEC, the boroughs, and state health department. So they're involved. I know they said they were going to put out a statement today about the kind of questions you might have. And like I said, I don't want to hijack the meeting, so I'm going to probably.
You're doing great.
I think I hit most of the things, but there's probably a lot of other questions. I don't know what you want.
Yeah. Don't worry about all the little black specks that are floating in the sky that are entering in water and covering all the decks and stuff.
So let's if you can repeat that question.
So the question was about the black specks, like the ash that's falling into the water, and what kind of concerns would that be? That's a little outside my area. I'm an air person, so I might punt on that one. I'm not sure that it would necessarily be a major concern, but.
So I think what you're asking about is the ashfall, and so your concern is about what that is.
Right. Well, it goes in the dog's water and.
Goes in the dog's water. Yep. So we are going to have, when we were doing the burnout operation and the fire was closer, that ashfall is part of that process. But the overall hazy smoke that we're getting from the other fires that are farther away, that shouldn't have that ashfall. But ash can travel for miles and miles. So thanks so much, and thank you for the mask models. I really appreciate that. That was good. Okay, Carly, we've got one in the back.
I have a question on access to the Martin subdivision. Excuse me. I have 2 contractors who've been waiting a week to come and do work. If they identify the lot and block number, will they be able to pass through. So Old Murphy Dome and Murphy Dome checkpoint.
Yep, with it moving from a 3 to a 2, that shouldn't be a problem. And after the meeting, we'll connect you with Nick Cronquist, who is here. Now he's in the back. And we'll just make sure that you have that number that he read out.
Find him now because I can't.
Okay. And Nick, you've got eyes on him? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We've got one up front.
Do you have any more planned burnouts scheduled coming up?
And I'm going to pass that to our operations, so hold on one second.
Yes, we do. Like I talked earlier about how we were working along this eastern perimeter. Obviously, when we get the depth in here, along here, we will find opportunities to bring fire in the middle of this fire. The intent behind that is to secure this edge along the river. We're really wanting to use it to hold the river. So once again, we got to remove those fuels. So that is a planned burnout. What we don't want to do is just leave this out here with fuels still ready to burn. If a wind shift comes, it could try and send embers in an area that we don't want. So yes, we do plan on doing some burns. Most likely there'll be interior burns along ridges to help back it down off the ridge in a controlled fashion.
Nothing more at the south end then?
No, we're down on this. We're down on the south end. We've got this tight along the road. But like I said, we will find those opportunities in these ridges, interior of the fire, to put some fire in to help back it down. Same question, or?
I think you mentioned you were going to bring the fire into branch 1. Does that mean you're going to start fires on the north side of the Chattanooga?
South side.
So branch 1, isn't that on the north side?
The branch, yeah, that branch 1, that's just a designator. From here to here is their area of responsibility. The control line is the river.
Okay. When you said you're going to bring fire into branch 1, what did you mean?
So, I'm sorry. So that the fire scar that sits up here, there's a fire scar that sits up here, right? So our first opportunity is along the Chattanooga River, right? If we have trouble controlling the fire on the river, that natural feature, then we'll get the control lines tied into the old burn on either end and push this into the old burn.
Yeah, so one of our concerns that we're looking at is you look at the map that's got our fuel types on it, right? And you can see the shaded part is the Hastings fire itself, which is a good control. Is this corner right here, where we don't have good black from Hastings fire on this end, and we have a possibility for the fire to be able to come around to the other side where there's a lot more good, as you know, black spruce from here all the way out to the Elliott Highway. So that's one of our key points right now, is trying to shore up that area. And what we're talking about by bringing fire is we have all this area that hasn't burned. If the wind comes down, hits this, picks up some of this and starts pushing it towards us hard on its own, we're out of control. But the way we've been burning is putting some fire, and I think what he meant by coming into branch 1 is just coming along the edge of here and trying to ease it down into the creek and hoping that that will hold. Not planning on it to hold, but if we have some good weather and some good advantages, that might hold enough for us to be able to get more barrier in here. So taking a little of this threat, just like we did take it out of here and out of here, to keep it from crossing either into this bowl here still, right below McLeod, is one of our big worries, because there's a lot of black spruce in that entire bowl. So the more depth we can get on this to keep anything from laying over if we get a west wind is what we're shooting for. And with the predicted weather, we need to have that buttoned up and looking good.
At the Alaska Volcano Observatory, we developed some filtration systems to guard against airborne ash. Because once the volcano erupted, you had very similar conditions as we do here. So it seems to me you should be able to get both a environmental filter, which is in the oil, in terms of sulfur oil, and the more openly air cleaner professional that people might have inside in a car. but all they have to do is design to make sure it takes in the right wavelengths. And that was only my only comment. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
We have one online.
Okay, we have one online.
Hi, yes, this is from Delia Vargas Kretzinger. Her statement, or her question is she said it wasn't clear from the map that you actually burned the area between Perfect Perch and McLeod subdivision. Are you still planning on burning that section? And she said she heard in the live stream that the only burning operations would be along the dozer line to the Chattanooga River.
Okay, so we need to have further clarification of where the burnout operation happened. That's kind of what it sounds like. Okay.
He's got his pointer.
Okay, so correct. So the burnout that we accomplished yesterday afternoon and today is along the dozer line off of the old Murphy Dome down into the Chattanooga. So McLeod sits over here, and like Rob was talking about, that big bowl. So no, there is no burning planned in this area. Once again, we're using this control line, this dozer line, with the burnout as a control line. So it will be west of our control line. I believe that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thumbs up.
Okay, we got a thumbs up on that. We've got one in the back.
So I just wanted by a little clarification on the sheet you handed out. So I know these are the changes, but is everybody else that was in level 1 still in level 1? Because this you could assume that you're not, because some people might start moving things back.
So level 1 is just a ready, sir.
Right.
And so we did not change.
Everybody's still in the level
Everyone's
1.
still at a level 1. So with that understanding, like Rob Allen, the IC, just mentioned, we are expecting to have lightning come into the area, so that could initiate new starts. So new wildfires starting in the area, and putting people on that awareness of being ready. So that basically means having a plan, not being packed up in your car, but having that awareness that we're in fire season, and we're in a fire season that has a lot of potential. So that's why we collectively with the borough kept people in a 1. Okay? Let's see. Questions in the back? Okay. We could, so I don't have someone from weather here right now, but I believe in our update we do have or Rob, do you want to give a quick wag at the weather?
We do have one of our fire behavior analysts who can do a better job at
Okay,
that.
we'll bring up one of our fire behavior analysts, and we'll give a quick weather report of what to expect. And then with that, I think we'll be wrapping it up, but we'll see if we have any questions after that.
We have what we call the science squad. And
Yeah.
Here's one of our members.
We're watching the weather about every minute. Dana Skelly with the weather and maybe a little bit of fire behavior if you want.
Yeah, sure. Cool. And then afterwards we can. Anyway, good afternoon or good evening. I'm Dana Skelly. I'm fire behavior with Team 2. And so the high pressure system that's been sitting over us for the last several days, that's been allowing the fire behavior that we've seen and the activity in the area for all the fires to pick up, that's getting pushed out with a low pressure system from the northeast. And what that's bringing is it's not bringing much moisture. It's bringing high level moisture enough to start creating thunderstorm activity, but we expect them to be dry thunderstorms for at least tomorrow through Thursday. Starting on Friday, we have better potential for moisture with the storms, but right now the forecasts are a little hit and miss about that. So tomorrow we're expecting overall west winds, which will be a little better for smoke in the area. Most of the fires in this area are north and east of us, and that's where a lot of the smoke we're getting is coming from, plus of course Shovel Creek. There are some fires to the west of here, but they're not as many. So smoke tomorrow should be a little bit better. We should be getting a little more lift in the atmosphere. It'll be warm and dry again, which of course is making the fuels very available for burning. When we get the thunderstorms in, though, we're expecting gusts of 25 to 30 miles an hour as potential outflow when the storms set up. Of course, we don't know exactly where the storms will be. But that's one of the reasons we've been working so hard to get the containment lines in place, because these storms have been forecasted for a few days now. So with that, we should continue to have really good fire behavior that'll help us reinforce the control lines that we've put in and help us be as prepared as we possibly could be for the storms and the outflow possibility. Over the next week, it looks like we'll be getting into a regular pattern of afternoon thunderstorm development. And it does look like as it goes on, there's more of a chance of moisture, but you know how weather is. Nobody wants to forecast more than 3 days out, and I am not a meteorologist. So that's as far as we'll get with that. But fire behavior-wise, you know, we've had a lot of great cleaning up of the fuels through this area. I'm sure many of you have looked on the Facebook pages and the posts online. They have great information, if you haven't seen them, about not just the pictures of the fire, but what it's doing and why we're doing it. You're all from here, so you know that the best defense against fire is this kind of fire. So that's all I have. I'm around if you have questions, but thanks so much for your understanding and support.
Thanks, Dana. Thanks for the impromptu. You kind of put her on the spot there, so thanks. We appreciate that. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. Again, I just want to thank you all for your patience and for your attendance tonight, and we'll be in touch with this fire and where it's going to go from here. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, folks, so I want to see a question from Hugh Neff, Chris Barth, and Ken Greger on the online audience right now. And I want to thank our forester, Holding, the state forester. So remember to post your questions here. We didn't see many tonight. That must mean that you're getting what you need out of this. I'm looking through the stream again to see if there's any more. That's what my finger's doing right there. And then I'll show you the scene itself again so you can see the breakouts and what happens here afterwards. A little bit of transparency again. Our whole campaign all along has been to bring you in so you're right there with us. So we'll look for your questions over the next couple days, of course. We always do, and we value that.
I just want to thank you for your confidence.
Let me turn this around.
I just want to thank you for your very enthusiastic. It's fun to watch you. You're so into it. Oh yeah, that's right.
Let's do a little pan round. Okay, here you go, folks. Here's your transparent look into the post-meeting breakout section. There's Dan with Alaska Public Radio right there. He's got his mic out. You got local talking to Rob Allen. You got the kiddos around here. Neighbors helping neighbors, asking questions, connecting. There's the volunteer firefighters. Let's take a look. There's Kate. She did a great job on her feed. You can catch that over there. Here's some more folks. So you are in the Goldstream area of Fairbanks. So Helen's asking, Helen, all the level changes have been posted on the Fairbanks North Star Borough Emergency Operations page, and the big changes are that the Martin and Perfect Perch subdivisions are down to a 2. The other subdivisions will remain at a 2 because we still do have fire in the landscape. We're not out of it yet. We're just able to get people back to their homes because it's been a long time. And then we also have a very hot and dry season, so everybody else will stay on 1. That's not uncommon at all. And there's our 2 safety officers. You saw Laura Livingston this morning on the highlights, and Ken Greger today giving you that reentry information. Our state forester off to his right, Tim Dabney, Paul Keach. This is a whole bunch of very important people over here. And Hugh Neff with a checking in, working up in chicken. Okay. Yeah, appreciate that, Hugh. We're doing all we can, so the more you guys tell us what you need, the more you tell us what we need to help you understand, the more we can do that. That's the mission of the info unit that we run here in both Alaska and the Northwest region, where we're the leads on both teams. So you are our passion, and informing you is what makes us happy. So here's again more looks of the organization around here. There's Chris Hutzel talking to some neighbors. So we do really try to, again, give you access to our team. I know we've had some folks write our team online and ask if we can get cell phone numbers and things. That's not how we do business here. We're really busy engaged with this big plan. It's a huge production. But we do give you access at our community meetings to come in face-to-face and check things out. So if you're not in Fairbanks right now, you're at the Ken Kunkel Community Center. Ivory Jacks is right next door. You can see that air quality that we're dealing with right now. That really tough air quality, and we just are all in it together. There's a lot of fire in the interior blowing this way. We'll swing back around, give you some final looks here, and there you go. So we'll keep an eye out for your questions. Thank you, CC. We miss you. It's always a better fire when you're here, and we just want to make sure you got your. Oh wow! Check this out. Hey, hold on a second. Let's bring you into this. Oh, we lost our phone. Do you see that? Here, come here. Here, hand me that card again. Sorry, guys. And then show it to them. What's it say? Get in there. What's that say? Does it say thank you, firefighters? Wow, that's really nice. Look at this, folks. The community of Fairbanks showing up and giving us the thank you card. So, sorry, the iPhone came right off the tripod. So we'll talk to you soon.